the Norfolk and Western Railway. The railroad that won my heart due to its love for steam traction. The first railroad I will cover in a story video. But today, we have another one of its articulated designs to cover. The first articulated locomotive the Norfolk and Western ever developed and purchased. Enter the Z-Class, a classification of 266 to Malik type locomotives, developed from the Baltimore and Ohio's old mod locomotive. These would become the beginning of a power shift for the railroad, and how they would change the face of the railroad's freight locomotive design forever. So sit back and enjoy. The Z-Class first originated from the observation of Old Mod, a Baltimore and Ohio Malik that is known to be the first of its kind in the United States, with the locomotive having a 0660 arrangement. It was made for power, but not speed. This locomotive proved itself to the Norfolk and Western, and designs of their own began to take shape. By 1910, plans were in place for the X1 class and the Y1 class. As we've already discussed, the Y-Class came to be successful in its own right, but the X1s were deemed unsuitable for road service for a smaller, lighter Mallet. In turn, the railroad turned to the Chesapeake and Ohio's H-Class of Mallet. Being extremely impressed with the design, the Norfolk and Western ordered duplicates of the design, with the first arriving in 1912, built by the American Locomotive Company. These new Z1 classes were numbered 1300 through 1314, along with their larger Y class. The railroad ordered 200 more of the Z1 design from both Alco and Baldwin Locomotive Works. However, the American Locomotive Company dominated the design, as nearly 80% of the Z1s were produced by them, with numbers 1380 through 1419 being delivered by Baldwin. The later variant of the Z1, the 1A, was slightly more powerful than its base locomotive, having the potential to create 75,000 pounds of tractive effort. By the 1930s, the railroad had begun upgrading the Z1s into Z1Bs. This included a larger tender, a new feedwater heater, and a refined pilot and headlight assembly. The original locomotives of the Z-Class were never overhauled, and was scrapped by 1934. By this time, however, the railroad had other more powerful designs heading in their favor, with the Y-Class now entering the Y5 series and the legendary A-Class being designed. It was a matter of time before the Zs went out of service, or so you would think. With the new power entering the playing field, the railroad put all of the Z-Class onto secondary roles, mostly including smaller manifests and coal drags outside of Roanoke. In 1928, the railroad experimented with the simple expansion design due to its easier upkeep. For this experimenting, Z1 number 1399 was chosen to be rebuilt into simple expansion. These became an offshoot of the Z1s, becoming the Z2s. However, these were not very successful, and all Z2s were scrapped with the original Z1s in 1934. However, the experiment didn't go unnoticed by the designers in Roanoke. With the knowledge of this, the railroad was able to shape the now legendary A-Class out of it, using both knowledge of their compound Y-Class and the knowledge of the experimental Z2s. By the 1950s, only 50 examples of the Zs were left, but they held on strong, finding work where they could on the main line. By 1958, the rest of the Zs were booted from the roster, as new diesel-electric locomotives took their place. Unfortunately, no examples were left for preservation. The only locomotives that represent the Zs and their story are H8 number 1309 and our beloved A-Class number 1218. Thank you for joining me. If you like these videos, Be sure to subscribe. As always, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.